All right, let's now head out to New Orleans, Louisiana. That's where Josh Pate and his Every Given Saturday crew are camping out this weekend as they take on Tulane and UCF. Josh, did you bring a sweater with you this week?
No. Well, I went and got one this morning from our fine friends at Academy Sports and Outdoors. It is shocking the consistency with which precipitation starts as soon as you and I start talking, Jeremy, because yet again it's happened. And let me remind folks, 76, sunny yesterday, got a nice little November late season base tan, and today it's gross here, just like it's gross pretty much everywhere they're playing college football across America.
Yeah, it seems to be raining on our parade, Josh, every single week. All right, let's talk about these two teams, front runners for the title game in the American. What would a win here mean for the victor in terms of that title game berth?
Well, I think it means just that. You know, we're going to have two games, obviously, or two teams, obviously, in that title game. But I think the winner here today becomes the preemptive favorite. It's normally Cincinnati. Cincinnati's looked sort of vulnerable this year. Central Florida's already beat them. We're going to see Tulane play them in the coming weeks. But in the here and now, the big question around here is, okay, Tulane's for real. How for real do we take them? Because as I mentioned, there's still a lot of meat on their scheduling bone in the weeks to come. But for Gus Malzahn in Central Florida, you know, they've kind of been there before under different regimes, and this one's no different. I just think today it's a good chance for the spotlight to be on the AAC. It's also a good chance for the spotlight to be on one of these teams because we're going to walk away from here. The sun's not going to come out today, but when the proverbial sun sets, we will know, hey, we got a favorite here to win this conference.
What do you see, Josh, as the keys to victory for each of these teams in this one?
Well, I mean, these flags are starched, and it's not like we expected a fireworks show to begin with, but a lot of these totals, like this one being in the mid-50s instead of the mid-60s or 70s, is indicative that there's kind of a different style of play than what the stereotype would indicate there is. These two teams rely on winning games on the ground. These two teams rely on defense, and I think if you just kind of check box scores, or you check final scores, but you don't watch, you wouldn't think that's how a Tulane versus Central Florida game plays out, but it is. And I'll tell you one of the key things, Jeremy, that everyone's waiting on. We're waiting on Central Florida to get to the stadium because we've got to find out about the quarterback situation. John Rice Plumlee, the Ole Miss transfer, playing for Gus Malzahn now, really good, really mobile. And Mikey Keene, who was the incumbent this spring, and they had a nice quarterback battle down there. Plumlee ended up taking it. Had to play last week and may very well have to play today. The difference is, especially with the weather conditions here, the mobility of Plumlee on a calm day is important. The mobility of him being able to stretch the field and also get your third down conversions on the ground today could be imperative. It's probably why this line keeps jumping back and forth across zero. Yesterday it was -1, now it's +1, +1.5. I think the mobility factor at quarterback, especially for Central Florida, is very key.
Yeah, and you see that line, as you mentioned, John. Now, Josh, Tulane, 1-point favorites, the total sitting at 54.5. You said it's at mid-50 line. It's reflective of the battle that we're going to see between the two in the conference. So when you look at those numbers, what's your play on the numbers, Josh?
I ever so slightly leaned towards UCF. I got to be honest, the more I'm standing out here and the more my skin feels rawer and rawer, and Jeremy, you know how rarely I use that word because it's hard to say, I slightly lean towards that under, too. I think this could be a game where someone in the mid to upper 20s ends up winning it. But if you're going side here, here's what I like, Jeremy. I like the fact that Central Florida has already played Cincinnati. Central Florida has already played SMU. They already went on the road and got beat by East Carolina. So there's kind of a more calloused and more battle-tested nature to that team. And I think in a game that feels so razor-tight, I think the volatility or variability here because of the low-scoring nature could go either way with the bounce of a ball. I just like the team that's been in that situation more. So it's not a great big lean, but it is a good enough lean where I'll roll with Central Florida, plus any points you would like to give me.
Well, and the Green Wave have won 6 of their 8 games by 10 or more points, but it's going to be a tight one today. Josh, stay warm in New Orleans for the game Saturday between UCF and Tulane. Have fun, buddy. You'll be able to hear all about this game from Josh on Late Kick with Josh Pate. His show airs at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. You can catch it on YouTube and Facebook.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.